So I will likely be expanding on this later on in the video, but I'm about to get picked up to go to this protest. Um, just a lot going through my head right now. How my views have changed, what I think of the situation with ICE, what I think of the second Trump term, what I think of when I think of what the next president will be like, what I hope the next president will be like, all of those things. But I think it's just, I really have not gotten very involved other than just kind of complaining online. And by all means, express yourself, but that's not the same thing as getting involved. And part of the problem for me is a lot of Never Trump protests and activities don't necessarily pertain to my values. I vote Democrat, but I'm not really a leftist, and I feel like a lot of leftist policies and viewpoints are kind of what people seem to want the future of the Democrat Party to be. My cat is whining, and she just will not stop, and you're probably going to hear her throughout this video. But anyways, that's kind of part of a reason I haven't really been more involved in things like protests, because I want to show up and support the protests. I want to support the other people who are there, and I kind of worry about that viewpoint conflict. With this No Kings protest, it's really more focused on the problems with the Trump administration that I have. So I feel like I'm there to just participate as opposed to, be an unintentional agitator, so to speak. It's also just a lot going through my mind because this is gonna sound a little nuts, but this is my first protest since the Tea Party movement. I went to a few Tea Party movement protests. I will probably share some of that experience, maybe in this video, maybe in another one, I don't know, but essentially, what I had a problem with at the time was big government. I felt like Obamacare was big government. I felt like Obama was an authoritarian, which is funny in hindsight. Um, but it's not that what I thought authoritarianism was wrong. It's that I was believing a lot of wrong things about Obama. So there's a lot to unpack there in terms of why I was part of the movement. But the point is that, I felt proud to be there, and I felt so proud to be part of the Tea Party movement. And I really started to realize this is not about big government. This is all about your hatred for Barack Obama specifically. That's number one. But then I also started to realize that opposing things like a better healthcare system has little to nothing to do with what you think of the size of government and where our taxpayer dollars should go. A lot of y'all really just do not believe that people deserve help, that people deserve options. And I really just started to realize that a lot of it boiled down to just embracing cruelty, completely. And that's what I'm seeing from those same people who have stayed on the Tea Party side, who have kind of become MAGA, who have become Trump supporters, things of that nature. I think you've got some people who are just kind of sort of trying not to pay attention and don't really want to own up to what they supported, but a lot of folks are out here when the rest of us are appalled by a video that we see or by a news event that we read and going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe my fellow Americans voted for this. I can't believe these things are happening. I can't believe I have to get out there and protest something so simple. And Trump supporters are in the comments saying, yeah, this is what I voted for. This is what I wanted. That's horrific. That's horrific. I think we're very close to becoming a fallen nation. And it's just modern Republicans. I think it may have started with the Tea Party movement because Republicans, well, if you look at a lot of positions, they're definitely not very for the people, But ever since from the Tea Party to now, I think they have definitely just really gone all in embracing and wanting to see cruelty in the United States of America. That is truly what they stand for. I'm not thrilled with the Democratic Party. I feel like oftentimes the Democrat candidate does not represent me that well in terms of my overall view. But I don't think I could ever even think about voting for a Republican again. All they want is to see people suffer. All they want is to see opportunities taken away. It's truly something sickening. So I'm going to be taking lots of video and pictures. I will probably do some type of a summary video here at the end. And I'll be picked up in about 10 minutes. I've got to deal with Leah because she's just she's a whiny mess. Anything I do for her is not going to be good enough, so I don't know why I'm even bothering. But anyways, I will just show y'all what goes on at this event. I'm excited to go. I think this is a bit overdue, so let's go. So I am waiting on my ride, and I've kind of been helping take care of this stray kitten. So she's hanging out with me waiting on my ride. She's obviously getting used to human touch, but I'm trying to get her cleaned up. She's kind of matted. She's got fleas, and I really can't keep her, so I'm really hoping I can find her a home soon, but it's kind of cool that in the meantime we get to hang out. Yeah, I know.
We gather in the heart of the South, in the city in which movements were born. Let us never forget that our freedom begins with our speech, our protest, our voice. Do not be silent. Do not cower down. Now is the time. We, the people!
I am one of many veterans that owe my life to the VA. Okay, there's no shame in my game. The VA, I am here to save their jobs because they work to save our lives. Today marks a really transitional point for America. We need to make our voices loud enough. We need to make our presence strong enough so that these MAGA suckers will not think that they can take our country away from us. One more thing I want to say, and I hope no one gets offended by this remark, but Donald Trump is a punk-ass bitch. Response that I needed to hear, because we need to take this energy from today. Punk ass bitch! 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 All right.
Thank you so much for coming out today. On an evening 98 days ago, Mahmoud Khalil was arrested in his apartment and renditioned to an ICE detention center, where he has remained to this. This administration and the agents of state power have used every lever to use the pro-Palestine movement as pretext for violent and comprehensive repression. From targeting students on campus, to pushing theories for deportation and denaturalization, to the empowerment of ICE and its masked stormtroopers to disappear our neighbors. Make no mistake, these cases are a test of what we will accept. And we must not accept.
My name is Bentley Hudgens. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the Georgia State Director of the Human Rights Campaign. No kings! No king! No king! Look, our country got a lot of things wrong at our inception. But one thing we got right is that America will not and will never have a king. Every single person in this country, regardless of who they are and how they live their life, deserves full equality under the law and the security of due process. But since this administration has captured power, Trump and his fleet of fascists have treated the promise of the Constitution as an obstacle. They view protecting human rights as an impediment to their desire of plundering our government for their personal gain. We see day after day that the MAGA movement seeks to reinstate an America where you can be treated less of a human being due to the color of your skin, where you come from, who you love, and for speaking out for peace. All of this hatred, all of this evil, and yet still we rise. From Atlanta to LA, from the Congo to Palestine, the people united refuse to be divided. We have taken this moment to stand up for human dignity, for life, for democracy, and for equality. Our spirits remain unbroken because we know that hope sustains us. And to the Republic, for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Instead of spending billions of taxpayer dollars on mass deportations, we should invest this money in providing housing, healthcare, education, and welcome immigrants to society.
The current occupant of the White House needs to be taken to school. Because in history, he gets an F, since he can't seem to grasp that we fought a whole war in this country against a monarchy in exchange for a government by the people and not standing on the wrong side of history when he is idolizing dictators. To call him out when he's ripping families and communities apart. To call him out when he's overstepping governors to call out the National Guard on peaceful protesters while telling those same governors that they need to fend for themselves if there's a natural disaster. To call him out on how he's so out of touch that he doesn't even know that the word groceries isn't just some old-fashioned term that he never uses, but what everyday Americans must buy that costs too damn much because of his economic policy. So since I teach microbiology, I'm gonna go ahead and give Trump a little science lesson too. In biology, we would consider Trump a parasite. Parasites cling to their host and literally suck the life out of it. Trump is a parasite to our Constitution, a parasite to our economy, and a parasite to our health and our safety. But we, the people, are the immune response. We are.
I attended a No Kings protest this past weekend, and I just kind of wanted to give you guys a recap of the event and my overall thoughts in terms of why I went there and whether or not this will actually be a movement. Before I get into the event recap, let me just kind of backtrack a little bit and give you all a little bit more insight into how I got to this point. So my last actual protest was a Tea Party movement protest. The main reason is that I really felt like they embraced the message of small government, of the government just getting out of our way. We don't need a nanny state. We don't need the government controlling everything. We need empowered individuals, all of that kind of stuff. All of that messaging resonated with me. I also really, really opposed Obamacare. I felt like it was just an attempt to massively grow the government. Part of that was messages I got that were not entirely based on truth and what was in the actual bill, but that was my perception. So I just felt like this is not about helping people. This is just about massively increasing the government. It's this, deep state conspiracy type of stuff. So it's not that I didn't want to see healthcare improve. I just felt like this was absolutely not the way to do it and something we completely could not afford. I also was very big on patriotism, which patriotism matters. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it really resonated to me, the criticisms of Obama saying things that he wants to fundamentally transform the United States of America. I viewed statements along those lines from him as very un-American or anti-American. So a lot of those kinds of messages just really resonated with me. And so the first time I went out to a Tea Party, I remember thinking, these are my people. Like, this is exactly where I need to be right now. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine to be part of a group that shares your belief system, but you should think more deeply than I was thinking about what you believe and why you believe it, number one. But number two, Tea Party type people are really the only people I was listening to. I really did not realize how much of a bubble I was in. And I felt like I wasn't in a bubble because, of course, if you listen to a lot of right-wing shows, they're going to play clips of Democrats. They're going to play clips of liberals. So you feel like you're getting these bits and pieces of the other side when you're not really. And I remember I was at work and someone made a comment about not liking the Tea Party. And I was like, oh, what don't you like? I do feel that there were a lot of perceptions and narratives in the media that were not quite true or were blown way out of proportion. So I do think that some of the criticisms of the Tea Party at the time were a bit unfair and unreasonable. But anyway, she was like, oh, they're so negative. I was like, what do you mean they're so negative? It's like, They don't have any ideas. They're just, Obama sucks, Congress sucks, the government sucks, healthcare sucks, everything sucks. That's all, that's their message. Everything sucks. And that was definitely a major light bulb moment. Because when I went to these events, like, there was the aspect of patriotism, yes. But what really had these folks motivated was rage. They were just angry and bitter at the world. And there just happened to be these type of topics that were that outlet for them. So, for example, Republicans were constantly saying, oh, we have answers for healthcare. It's just not Obamacare. And, repeal and replace. There's no replacement. They don't give a damn about people's health. That's just the Republican Party for you. And I really realized, okay, they're not interested in taking action on these things and doing things themselves, but they're pissed off if anyone else takes action and does something. Also, I will say another thing that I no longer believe in is the idea that we can't afford it. We politicians can find the money for anything they want to find money for. That is how it works. So I will never again accept a politician saying we can't afford something that would be good for the American public. I just do not accept it, period. There is somewhere that we can cut. There is something that we can do. There is some way to make this work. But the final reason I kind of started drifting away from Tea Party ideology, so to speak, is how they talked about Barack Obama. And I could go into a lot of detail about this because I think it really has a lot to do with how we got where we are with MAGA folks believing that being anti-DEI and things of that nature is the way to go. But a lot of Tea Partiers would talk about, we should be able to criticize any president and talked about the other side twisting any criticism of Barack Obama into, an opportunity to accuse someone of racism. And I had experienced that in person some, but mostly online. Anytime I made just a criticism of a policy or Obamacare or whatever else, people would call me racist. And it would be like, I didn't say anything about his race. I didn't say anything about his background. I didn't say anything about who he is as a person even. I just said, I don't like this policy or I don't like this idea. So that was something that very much resonated with me and kind of ingrained, okay, the left is always wrong because they're using this line, which it is a tired line. The point is, I think the left does need to take some responsibility for how we got here because you are driving people away from being open to actually wanting to address racism. When you call everything racist, like you're not helping. I don't know why people on the left think that helps or that's something good. I don't get it. Because I did care about those comments. I do care about if I'm doing or saying anything that's racist. You should. In my opinion, you should very much care whether or not you are being racist. So anyways, those are some of the reasons that I related to the Tea Party movement and then kind of started to pull away from them because it's not as authentic as it initially appears. And most people who were part of the Tea Party have become modern MAGA. And I can say the same thing for them. They are just not authentic. They're just going to not consider any fact that they don't want to consider. And it's very convenient to maintain your own ideology that way. I feel pretty confident in most of my beliefs, but I believe that we should always be open to the idea that we might have something wrong. So I did not really attend any protests after the Tea Party movement. Sort of after that, I kind of went through this phase of I don't really know where I stand. At this point, I most closely relate to a classical liberal. I'm sort of starting to lean more towards progressive beliefs. But the last political event I went to was Jo Jorgensen. So she was the Libertarian candidate running when Biden and Trump had their little showdown. And Jo Jorgensen, I think, I would describe her as like libertarians are just, they're too libertarian. You know what I mean? It's not bad to have small government. It's not bad to have this mindset of I want the government to just have their hands off what we're doing. But they really seem to just go overboard and really just seem to want like anarchy, but still want the government to like keep certain things in line for them. And I view that as a bit hypocritical. Most people actually want more government services than they realize. They just don't connect them as government services, or they think that a lot of those government services should be privatized, which is something else I very much disagree with. But anyways, I will say I'm not necessarily proud of this, but I did vote for Jo Jorgensen. I could not justify voting for Donald Trump, obviously, but I really could not justify voting for Joe Biden. I did get to meet her at this event. There was basically a speaker session at this like outside rally, and then there was this inside like dinner event, and she just kind of was walking around talking to people. But I think, I don't know how inspired by her I felt. I do think we'd be in a better place if she won. I think she would have done a decent job. I think there probably would have been quite a few things that I disagreed with as well, unfortunately. But that's neither here nor there at this point. One of the things that made me consider voting for Jo Jorgensen in the first place is just how ridiculous the left can get with their purity tests and this, you view things this exact way that I do, or you're a bigot. And it's like, you have to get in line with whatever the general moral line is for the party, which is not always determined by the party, and or else you're out. And I don't get that. So there were a lot of criticisms of Joe Biden that I think were perfectly valid that people just would not consider. For example, his cognitive decline. I'm sorry. If you are still trying to tell me that Joe Biden was not dealing with cognitive decline, you're crazy. You're crazy. And there were so many times at the time where that was so obvious, when he was running and also during his presidency. And to see these people just blatantly deny the obvious just because, and to then tell people, oh, you're being mean, or you just want to hand Trump a victory, or all whatever BS line they had for the day. I don't align with that stuff. And I am an anti-religious atheist. And a lot of that stuff feels very religious to me. It's like when Trump was president and we called it kids in cages. And then as soon as Joe Biden took over, oh, they're overflow facilities. Oh, okay. We'll just change the language. Okay. I can't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend something is different than what it actually is for the sake of being part of a group. If that means I'm left out and there's not a group I identify with, then that's just what that means. I'm not playing games with this stuff. I'm not saying that I don't see what I'm seeing so that a group thinks better of me. If I wanted that, if I needed that, I would probably still be playing the part of a Christian, even if I didn't believe in God. And I'm obviously not doing that. Another thing I had a problem with was Joe Biden is a creep. He's a creep. Lots of creepy behavior. And to hear so many people who claim to value defending women be completely dismissive of that stuff, I had a real problem with that. Just in principle. Even if it never happened again, just in principle. The fact that you're telling me to just not be concerned with the fact that he's touchy with people and doesn't respect personal boundaries, that's a problem for me. And if this was a Republican candidate, you would be all over criticizing this stuff. So if you're going to criticize something because it's a Republican, but you're not going to criticize it when it's a Democrat, I don't support that. I don't want to be on board with that. I don't associate with that. I don't relate to that. And I don't want to. Now, I will say he did put out some statements saying that he was trying to change. I think we did see some type of change in that behavior, or the media just stopped reporting on it. One or the other. I don't know. But it's just people acted. It's one thing for people to be dismissive of it, but people would actually act like you were out of line for bringing that up or making an issue out of it. And it's like, nope, that's not something I can support. So I do have quite a few problems with Biden supporters. I don't support the guy. I do think he did a decent job as president. I don't have a whole lot of complaints. It's just, again, that complete lack of authenticity that you see from the MAGA side. That's different reasoning behind it, but it's the same thing. It's a group of people who are completely inauthentic and telling you they believe something different than what they actually believe and expecting you to pretend that you don't see that difference. So a lot of frustration there. So all of that has led me to where I am now and why I wanted to attend a No Kings protest. So I have been a loud, proud, never Trumper. I've been wanting to get out and be part of a protest against Trump. But a lot of them have happened to be groups that are a lot more leftist than I am in ideology. Now, I think maybe I should have had a different perspective on this, because I think it's perfectly fine to go and be an observer at an event and just try to learn, just try to be open-minded, try to have conversations. But I wanted to actually protest. And if you're going to protest as part of a group, I do think that you should be present as someone who is there to support the actual cause. So there were a few events that caught my eye, but once I looked into who set it up, it's like, okay, I'm not quite leftist enough for this event. There may have been a few things said on stage that were a little bit to the left for me, but at the end of the day, a No Kings protest is more what I'm looking for as a Never Trumper. Because it's not just about my critiques of Donald Trump, it's about the erosion of the Constitution. It's about a president of the United States trying to executive order away constitutional amendments. That's a problem. That is someone conducting themselves like a king. Another concern I have is hearing so many fellow Americans actually defend a lack of due process. Y'all are crazy. We are watching our rights disappear. Wake up. So, for example, one thing I think of when I think about this conversation of Trump being a dictator or aspiring to be a dictator, I made some type of remark on social media, and a Trump supporter came at me and was arguing that he wasn't. And I kind of gave some examples as to why I felt like he wanted to be or was trying to be. And he said, well, if Trump tries to be a dictator, we'll stop him. And he goes on to explain, well, he'll listen to his supporters. Oh, okay, so you think you can vote for someone who says they're going to be a dictator, and then if you individually think that it's too far, you'll just tell him to back off and he'll just back off. Like, that is the fairy tale that these people live in. If someone wants to conduct themselves like a dictator, they're not going to wait for your permission to go from somewhat extreme to very extreme. Like, it can be a very fast transition. And I will never understand how Trump has successfully gotten so many people to just have faith in him. Because they do. They have faith in him. No matter how much they see, no matter how awful it gets, no matter how depraved things become in this country under Donald Trump, they will still believe that he will pull back. And that there will be a bridge that's a bridge too far for this guy. And Donald Trump is crazy. He's crazy. And the country needs to be protected from him. And I am so angry that we are so stupid as a people to give this man a second term. Insane. But the event itself. So the event itself was really cool. It was in Liberty Plaza in Atlanta. I do wish the organization had been a little bit different. So basically in the plaza, you can have up to 5,000 people. They had blue wristbands. So once you were in, you were in. When you left, you had to give up your blue wristband so that someone else could come in. So there were 5,000 in the plaza. Outside of the plaza, there was, I don't know, maybe another 4,000-ish. I think we got close to 10,000. I'm not quite sure if we hit that number. I was inside the event listening to the speakers for the first hour, and then I kind of came outside to kind of see what was going on and out there and just listening to people, reading everybody's signs. It was a really cool experience. The speakers were fantastic. I really, really loved what they had to say for the most part. There were a few things, but, you can't expect to agree 100% with a large group of people. Before the event started, there was this one lady that really got on my nerves. So this isn't that serious, and I should get over it. But so I'm sitting there. I'm kind of like on the edge of this row, and this lady comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, where is the old lady section?" Which, first of all, I don't get that kind of humor. I just don't. Also, if you're someone, especially if you're someone I don't know, okay, if you have something that you need to say, okay, here's what you're going to do, okay? You're going to come up to me, and you're going to say what you're trying to say, okay? That's what we're going to do. I do not respond positively when people do stuff like that. When someone asks you a question, it's like they're obviously fishing for a particular response, and they're going to get irritated with you if they don't get the response. Like, I didn't get what she meant at first, so I just kind of looked at her like, I don't know. Like, also, like, you don't want to be ugly or offensive. Like, you're calling yourself old, but then if I say it, you're going to have a problem with it. Looking at her, she was not that old, like mid-50s. Like, you're not frail. Like, calm down. Her point, I think, was you should scoot over because I'm older. And then she makes a comment about me being young, which, first of all, I'm 35 years old, so fuck off. Okay?
I am too old to have to tolerate that from another adult. No, ma'am. Ain't nobody asked you about your age. Ain't nobody asked about my age. Our ages have nothing to do with this situation. Nothing to do with it. At all. Fuck off. But also, I spent a lot of my youth dealing with a lot of health issues that older people told me I could not be having because of my age. So that just hits a very particular nerve with me. Being younger than you doesn't mean that standing is easier for me necessarily. That's a very bold assumption for you to just make. Actually, I am dealing with some mobility issues right now. It's a temporary injury, but still, like, it's age doesn't tell you everything. So then she just kind of forces her way in, is like, well, I'm sitting here anyways, whether you like it or not. Like, I really should have made this an argument. I really should have. I regret that. I regret that. I was there to be positive. I was there to have a fun day. I was there to get out and express myself. And that's what I did. Another thing I want to note about this event is I really did expect it to be a much more angry tone. Don't get me wrong. People showed up because they were angry. And, you know, there were times the crowd got riled up. But there was so much positivity and so much love for country and so much love for the future of this country that I saw. And I was really, really happy with that. Yes, we can be angry at Trump. Yes, we can be angry at what's going on. That does not mean that we have to let that anger, you know, constantly consume us. I also like the fact that I didn't see anything out of hand. Everybody conducted themselves totally fine. I didn't even see heated discussions. You know, I didn't even see people like really get in each other's faces over disagreements. Of course, we were all there for a common cause, but still, sometimes at these events, people will get in each other's faces if there's a point that they bring up that they don't see eye to eye with. So there was none of that going on. Now, I will say they did announce at our event that at the DC event, I want to say 40 or 50 protesters were arrested. They made that announcement. But what they explained was they were arrested because they crossed police lines, and we're not going to do that here. So I really love the fact that they brought that up, but they also followed it up with that point. You know, we're not going to be antagonizers. We're not going to instigate anything. We're not going to cross police lines. We are here to express ourselves. We have a permit. We're doing what we have the right to do. Now, the organizers did tell us after the event, we should march down to the Juneteenth event to show our support. And I think it really just came from the right place of this camaraderie. But the Juneteenth people were pissed about that. Like, they did not want, I did not go to that part. I went off and got into some trouble somewhere else. But, yeah, celebrating Juneteenth is completely different than anti-Trump, anti-ICE. Like, it's not about that. So I think the goal was good to just show support, but that's really not what it seemed like Juneteenth folks wanted at all. So I wish the organizers had at least had some type of communication like, hey, is it okay if we send our event people to your event after the fact? I wish there'd been some communication there. So I just remember the entire time just feeling, I'm so glad I came to this. I'm so glad I showed up. I'm so glad I came here. I'm so glad that I was part of this. I would definitely go to another No Kings event. So we will see if that opportunity arises. But then things kind of went south when I left the event. So I should have made better plans for where I was going to go eat lunch and then go home. And I didn't. And I went to the wrong side of town and found this restaurant. I think I got mixed up. I was trying to go a different direction and I got turned around. And by the time I pulled my map out, it like was kind of would have made sense to go back to where I was trying to get to in the first place. So I ended up at this restaurant, which was not where I wanted to be. So I'm sitting eating, and this lady comes in, and she's screaming at the owner of this restaurant, just cussing up a storm, all kinds of bullshit. And that was kind of like, I'm in the wrong place. And it was just that out of control stuff. So basically, what the owner was telling me was that she kicked this lady out because she was messing up her bathroom. Her bathroom was out of order because of that. Shouldn't have been operating under those circumstances. But anyways, so I finish eating. I'm waiting on my ride. It's going to be a while. They got stuck in traffic. I think I was at this restaurant for over an hour after I finished eating my meal. So I was just stuck for a while. And this crazy woman just attacks this other woman and is beating her, and her head almost hits, and I kind of stand up and like, I'm not really sure what to do, and everyone else is just kind of frozen. Most people are not even looking, just could not care less. And I was like, I can't just watch this, especially when her head almost hit the pavement. I can't just watch this. So I went out there and kind of got between them a little bit. So basically, there's a woman about my height, but definitely much thicker. Definitely could do some damage if she wanted to. And this other woman was on the ground and was trying to kind of shield herself, and she's like extremely thin. I would almost go so far as to say frail. Like she can't take on somebody like this, which is part of why I went out there. If two people are in like an equal fight, or it's a fight they both want to be in, I think that's a little bit different. But I just felt like, how are we just going to stand here and watch this? So she kind of backs off and she's screaming from a distance. Then she kind of gets in her face again. I put my arm between them. I'm not really saying anything. I'm trying to just kind of, like, she stopped. She did ease up on the aggressiveness a little bit. Like, I'm doing something right. I just wasn't quite sure what to do exactly. Finally, she turns on me, which I wasn't too upset with, because I went into the situation knowing that's the result I kind of wanted. Like, this other woman is much more frail than I am. I might not be a fighter. I might not know what to do exactly, but if I can at least get this other person to stop being hit, then I've done my job. I've done what I should have done. I might get hit in the process. I might get hurt in the process. That sucks, but it is what it is. So she's screaming and screaming and screaming at me, and I mean crazy, like wild-eyed. Like, her eyes are like wide. She's got a little bit of a beard. Her hair is crazy. Like, she's nuts. She's screaming in my face, "What do you fucking want from me, bitch? What's your problem, bitch?" Just top of her lungs. Like, first of all, the fact that you even have this energy level to scream this loud, something's wrong. I don't know if it's mental health issues. I don't know if it's drugs. It's probably both. Like, but the point is, like, I'm kind of trying to explain, like, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to touch you. I just don't want you to hurt anybody. That's all I want. You know, I'm not really backing up, because I feel like that's the worst thing to do in that situation. So as far as what I wanted to do, that was the only thing on my mind. Like, don't back up. Don't go forward, and don't instigate, but do not back up. And she's just screaming and screaming and screaming, and I kind of stopped trying to explain myself, because I realized there's nothing I can say. She's going to continue screaming. She's going to continue hurting this person as soon as I'm out of the way. She is crazy. And she was spitting on me and screaming, and I did not back up. And then this other lady comes up, and she's trying to kind of get in the middle as well. And at first I thought she was trying to help, and she ends up cornering me with this other lady. Like, my back is up against the wall between the two of them. So if this woman had really wanted to hurt me, like, she would have had ample opportunity. And at that point, I will be fully transparent. I kind of gave up at that point, because I might have had some type of chance in defending myself against this one person. Two people, and I'm back up against the wall, I really don't have much of a chance. So then I get pulled back into the restaurant, and everybody's telling me, don't go out there. And then, so the lady chases the other lady off the street. She hit her, and she hit several other people several more times. And it's just, I think it's sad. Like, no one should have to live in fear of someone else hitting them if they're just walking down the street. I don't get it. And I can kind of laugh about it now as far as my role in it. But at the end of the day, it really is a very disheartening event, because my day started with a sense of, we're all in this together. We are all in this together, and we're going through a difficult time as a nation, and the best we can do is look out for each other. And it ended with, you're in the city, you're on your fucking own. And I just, that really just breaks my heart, because everyone was telling me, you shouldn't have gone out there. You shouldn't try to put yourself in the middle. You shouldn't. Why? Why shouldn't I? Yes, I could have gotten hurt. And even aside from fist flying, like, what if this person had a knife or a gun? Like, I could have died if that was the case. I mean, and you don't know. People are crazy. This was obviously someone who was nuts. And, I think part of my mentality in getting involved in the first place was I kind of figured someone else might help me. I kind of thought that it might not just be me trying to help this person. Once I realized it was, I stood my ground anyways. But the point is, I just think that's such a sad mentality of, if you see someone getting hurt, you don't interfere. Just look away. Let me clarify. If I am ever out with you and you see me getting hurt, I would love for you to intervene. I cannot express how much I would love for you to please intervene. Please intervene. Do not just stand there. But it also really made me think about a couple other things. Because about the third or fourth time someone told me that I shouldn't have got involved, shouldn't have gone out there, they told me it was like that every day. And that kind of made me go from judging people to judging the state of society. You know what I mean? Like, I have to admit, if I saw that every day, yeah, there would be a point I'd stop going outside. There would be a point I would stop trying to interfere. There would probably be a point where I would stop even caring. And that's the reality. In a lot of cities, that's the reality. People can get beat up in broad daylight. And if anyone interferes or tries to do anything, they're looked at like they're a complete idiot. You're not supposed to care if your fellow American is being hurt. You're not supposed to care if your fellow American is in danger. And I listen to people who consider themselves MAGA define us as such a great nation. And pardon me, I don't think we're great. I don't think that's greatness. I don't know how you define greatness, but that is not greatness. That is a normal everyday thing in American cities. How dare you call this nation great? And I don't say that because I hate this country. I say that because I am so sick and tired of people calling us the greatest country in the world without being willing to do a single thing to make us great. Great is such a broad general standard. I kind of like, what does that even mean anyways? But you don't get to call yourself number one if you're putting in number 10 work. We're putting in number 10 work. We're not putting in number 1 work. And we need to recognize that as a society. We need to recognize that we are failing as a society. We were referred to as the great experiment, and we have failed. We are a failed experiment. We have a society that, in my opinion, is barely functioning. Now, when's the last time I personally experienced a crime or had genuine reason to believe that I was in danger? In my personal experience, no, I have not experienced that much in my life. I will be honest about that. But that's not the reality for a lot of Americans. I've been lucky. And I'm not going to use the fact that I've been lucky to just turn my back on the rest of the country and go, yep, everything in America is just dandy. Here we are, the greatest nation in the world. I just can't stand that type of arrogance. And that's the kind of energy I saw at the No Kings protest. It's not un-American. It's not about hating America. It's about we want America to be better. We want America to be greater. We want America to be safer. We want America to be a greater place. That is the energy that I want to see from fellow protesters, from politicians, from political organizations. Like, that is the mentality we need to have. If we're going to sit and just be unwilling to criticize certain things, then I think we're failing. We're failing. We need to have the uncomfortable conversations. We need to tackle the difficult issues. For me personally, I would much rather be part of a group that says, hey, we are not doing well, but we can fix it. We can get it back on track, than people who will just say that we're a great nation no matter what, unless there's a Democrat in office or something. Like, I can't. We have got to be willing to put in the work to be a greater nation than we are. I don't think great should be a standard anyways. I could make a whole other video about that because it's such a broad general term, and what people mean by that is never quite clear. But we should absolutely have the goal, whether you use the word great or not, to be in a much better place as a society than we are. We can do so much better than this. We can do so much better than having a 2-bit loser like Donald Trump in office. We can do so much better than this. But until we act better, we don't deserve better. I think our national identity is in crisis, and I think that we need better leaders. And Donald Trump is a joke. He is absolute trash, and he is eroding our rights. And even if you like some of his ideas and some of his policies, you've got to get over yourself and recognize that this is a problem. We, as a nation, deserve to be in the mess that we're in. We deserve it. We voted for a second Trump term, this is what we get. We deserve to be in such a horrible place. But hopefully, we will have the resilience and the wherewithal to get it together and do better. Because this is a mess, and this is a joke, and this is embarrassing.